Hello, guys, and welcome to another episode of What If Civilization Started Over. In the last episode, we saw a couple of events happen, such as a couple major wars that evolved into one war out here in Africa. We saw the Cross Alliance was the victor of this, as well as this tiny Scion country has done pretty much nothing the entire series. Like the last time I mentioned them before that war was a while ago, a long while ago. But we also saw a union take place in Central Eastern Europe, and we saw a small war break out over here. But if you enjoyed today's episode of What If Civilization Started Over, make sure to like and subscribe, and let's get started. Mm, So, first event we have happening is going to be a war again. This time it is between these two European nations, as the the purple Roman team invades up into the blue team. This is a very surprising war. No one expected this to happen. But to put it simply, the purple team, they want a lot of these lands up here for whatever reason, because there's like the Alps. They get up to about here, and then the blue team will begin to push back against them, and eventually the purple team's like, okay, so we severely underestimated these guys, so we need help instantly. So they call on a northern neighbor of the blue team, Germany, who will say, yeah, we'll help you. So they invade blue team, and then the blue team, they want help. But it's not really any good help around, considering, looking at the alliance layer. I mean, there's Denmark, that's the Cross Alliance. You've got these guys who aren't in an alliance, but they're kind of close with Germany, so they're probably not going to help. Can't really ask Russia or any of these three. They're in Circle Alliance. Can't really ask any of these guys. So, yeah, there's not really anything a- they're able to do. So, they see if certain someone is willing to only invade Rome, so these guys can focus up on Germany. And there is someone who borders Rome in two places, technically, and that is the Adriatic Union. And if you recognize the name, yeah, probably because they're in the Adriatic Sea. So they take over the Roman capital extremely quickly. Nobody saw this war coming, let's be honest. And then they move or nobody saw this exact thing coming. And then they move up, take over all of Rome. And then they're like, so, about us being allied with Germany. We want all the Adriatic Sea, by the way. And if you think you know where it's heading, you probably do. They invade up into the blue team, firstly the occupied areas of the purple team, and then they start invading into the blue team. And the blue team's like, so basically you backstabbed us. And basically, yeah, they did. Germany will then move south, almost or about to take over the capital before, just like in the last video, another war nearby breaks out. And this time it is between the West French and the Central-ish French nation. I don't know what to call them, but they begin to they want to invade these guys. So that they do. They and pretty much right after they take over the capital, the entire country falls. And of course, there's going to be nations that are like speaking out against these guys. Like the Cross Alliance is invading all of these nations. They're supposed to be a defensive alliance, but they're not. But they're attacking everyone. And that becomes true, especially since Catalonia has just invaded Rome. Then they moved up into the Lime team, and from the Lime team, they plan on going into the Blue team. They took over the Lime team's capital, so they're almost, and they're already here. And some of the major nations that speak out against this are like Russia, the RPGAU, even South China, who's kind of close with these guys. But also some members inside the Cross Alliance will even speak out against these four, like North France, the Great Empire, even, and the Signing Team. And especially with the Great Empire, if they lose the Great Empire, it could seriously collapse for them. And the Great Empire knows this. So what they do is they will say, all right, so we're going to give you guys a month to get all your troops out of there, and we won't leave the alliance. So West, West France and Catalonia will host a meeting in this major city right here, and then they host another with the Adriatic Union of Germany up here, and those meetings are like 2 days worth. And they discuss this. They're like, okay, so the RPGAU gave us a month to get out of these guys, so let's plan something. So their plan is to blitzkrieg through the nations. West France will begin entering uh, into this or into the Central France nation, and the Great Union's like, wait, what are you guys doing? Get out of these countries. And pretty much their response is, yeah, so if we take over these countries, then there's no country to get out of. Uh, and the RPG, or not the Great Empire is like, okay, so you found a loophole that you're gonna exploit. Got it. At this point, just go ahead and you still have 30 days, and you can't if you fully annex that, or if you fully annex all of these countries, then we're still gonna leave. And if you don't, you still have 30 days anyway. So there's no loophole with that one that they can find. So their decision is to keep or to go even further into all of these countries and force them into surrender so that they can get their troops out as soon as possible. And eventually, the last remaining country is the blue team, as as Catalonia, West France, Adriatic Union, and North and Germany all invade through the country, eventually capitulating it entirely. And that'll look something like this. The rest of it going over to Adriatic Union. So they have 24 days, or they have 6 days left. They have used 24 days to do all this. They have 6 days left to fully annex, assimilate, and, or not fully annex, but to get the territories they want, assimilate them, and to get their troops out. Or the Great Union is going to leave, and they definitely don't want that. So, let's take a look at what the peace treaty will look like. Alright, so here we have our peace treaty. You might have noticed that I reset the map, and that's kind of true. What actually happened was there was an issue in recording the first time I was recording this, uh, and I only noticed after I had done the peace treaty, so I just reset the peace treaty back to the map and drew the peace treaty on that. So let's take a look at what this peace treaty will look like. Firstly, West France will annex all of these territories here. They're becoming more of just an actual France. Catalonia will be annexing this and this a little bit here. The Lime team will be annexing this. So Germany will annex this and this. And the Adriatic Union will annex pretty much all of Rome. This. And then lastly, Catalonia will get that. So this is the peace treaty for this war. I'll get rid of the capitals. And you probably noticed already that there's that bit of land right up there. And you also probably noticed that the Lime team got land because they just directly said it. So I'm going to explain these two. Firstly, with this, Germany and the Adriatic Union were kind of arguing over who gets these 2 pixels, both claim over it. So eventually they decided, you know what, if neither of us can agree on who gets it, then we'll just give it back to its owner. So, or, or its rightful owner, which technically should be Italy, but they gave it back to these guys because Italy doesn't exist anymore. As for the Lime team, uh, a little deal was made between them and West France and Catalonia, and that little deal was, all right. So you get land. So you were absolutely destroyed. So we'll let you get some land if you join the Cross Alliance. So they do just that. Not only do they join the Cross Alliance, though, they will also join the 3-point star economic alliance. So, er, the blue team though, they don't get the same deal. All right. So now that we're on the alliance layer, I'm going to talk about something that's been going on with 2 of the alliances. Those 2 being the Triangle and the Circle Alliance. They have really good relations with each other. Both have one main policy, which is anti-colonialism, and that policy is even kind of spread out into the Trapezoid Alliance. I'm pretty sure I talked about this in the last episode. But these 3 alliances will eventually be merging into one. So don't mind while I do that. Quick. This is going to take a bit. Um. So with this all happening, actually, you do notice these guys have no 4-point star economic alliance, and they won't be joining the triangle or the cross alliance either. Or not, yeah, the Triangle Alliance. Same goes for Angola and the Congo Nation. I think these guys are these guys Angola-ish? Or is Angola here? It's like Namibia's right in here, so Angola. I'm kidding. Anyway, alright. So all of these countries join up with one alliance. Since all of these guys share the same one policy. which is no colonialism. These guys. Alright, I made a mistake, dang it. Alright, so with this no colonial policy, I'm going to talk about that for a second. Uh, they do have slightly different views on how they should like support no colonialism, but so what the RPGAU has done in previous episodes is they are supporting protests in colonial countries, even in Siberia, just because they have land right across the Bering Sea. The, or the Bering Strait, not Bering Sea. There's Bering Sea, but that's like this water. And I keep getting sidetracked. Anyway, so with the Circle Alliance, the way they took no colonialism was more like they also did some or made some protests in countries, but more so what they did was they were like they kind of did propaganda. And then for the Trapezoid Alliance, not all of them were anti-colonialist. They just didn't like one nation or another that was colonialist. Some of them were also just completely anti-colonialist. Like, for example, the um, Caribbean country, or the American country. The Caribbean country is an example of one that wasn't really too colonialist or too anti-colonialist. They just hate Catalonia. These two here, they just hate the Dutch. But the Dutch are the greatest exemption from the new anti-colonial alliance. They are the only member, or they were the only member of the Circle team that did not do any protests, and they're the only member of the Circle team that did not join with this new alliance. So, the main reason for that is they had one of the old big colonial empires. They had a giant colony right in here. They had a colony up in Greenland. That was it. They did have East TS colony as well. Um, that wasn't. That's not a big colony, but that's like that's the big thing going on up there. Now we head over for our uh, daily ocean update. I feel like it is more of a daily, like, New Guinea update or something. Alright, but what we have going on here actually isn't going to be on the map, but more on the religion map. Uh, well, you know what, let's take a giant look at the global religions. Up, up here, we can see there's not really any religions spreading from these borders. Because, I mean, these countries here, they are they're pretty good with the team's religion, turn off alliances. Um, Recently there has been some growing changes, and a lot of people near the borders with the green team are starting to, yeah, people along the borders of the green team are starting to go more with the green team's religion as it's beginning to spread up into all of these countries. However, it's also more of a slightly more violent way, but it's also going into this Lime team or Lime religion. that was founded by the red team down here. It does stick in their core areas, which also does have some land in the pink area. So they do try and spread it down here, but it's a bit harder to do so as people are really fond of this pink religion in the south. But or the red religion, and but we also see a couple new religions start popping up across the world, and this does stem from Oceania, and they're what are called island survivor religions, and you'll never guess where it started. And the one country that has survived on an island for who knows how long. It starts off right in here. All right, so there was a bit cut out from the video, from the original video on this, but the new religion is this more cyan-ish religion. Let's test it first to make sure it's kind of different. It starts off on these couple islands around here, and then it starts spreading into other islands nearby. It kind it does like spread on all of these islands too. It's just a lot less common. But we also see something a bit that you haven't really seen actually happening. So there's but first let's continue this island survivor thing. So the island survivor religion starts out in the Caribbean as well. It's like people hear about it from all over here and hear like some of the different parts of it, and people start liking it. It then appears out here in the Mediterranean on a couple different islands, such as Cyprus, Crete, and even a bit into Sicily, or not Sicily, Sardinia. But it's pretty much the same religion. And one of the big parts of this religion that's starting to pop up is it's mainly on small to medium-ish sized islands, and a big part of it is also warm climates. There's not really anything going. The people up here, they don't really like the religion ish. Just because like it's a lot of a lot of the people that follow it have one specific tradition that they go with it, and it's kind of hard to do up here. But I'm not really gonna go into detail. You can make up whatever it is for it. But yeah, that's it for religion, at least for now. We will be back there in a bit. But alright. So we have two more events happening this episode, one on the religion up. But first, we come up here to the RPGAU. If you remember, back when the RPGAU formed initially, they had controlled, or they had annexed Tibet, which controlled some of this area. But new Tibetans aren't, uh, or they're really mostly people who moved from the RPGAU north to escape to escape the RPGAU. A lot of people aren't really too fond of these guys, or at least a lot of the Tibetans weren't. They had a lot of strict policies that the Tibetans didn't like, and they just had a whole lot with. They had a lot of differences that still makes it hard to assimilate this area. And despite being a yellow stability, they are. Oops. they are one of the worst, if not the worst, yellow stability nation in terms of stability. Like their stability it's a decent stability compared to like Catalonia or Germany, or but it's also not really good compared to like these guys, or even the Great Empire has way better stability than them. Um, but that's pretty much it for saying that. Um, but what we're gonna see happening is a lot of people begin to start uh pretty much revolting, and that throws the Great or that throws RPGAU into red or into dark red stability, not dark red, into red stability at first, and then throws them into the dark red from there, as they have are eventually it evolves into a full revolution, but it's only in the Tibetan area, even like with Pakistan or up in Persia, India. This whole thing, this whole revolting thing, isn't really seeming too popular. But we see groups of Tibetans in just mostly oops, groups of Tibetans mostly just in this area, which I'm going to color as just a slightly brighter version of Tibet, which I should have started with. So there's groups of these Tibetans that start breaking away, forming groups. Whoops. But it seems to be most prominently along either the Tibetan border or in the more original Tibetan areas. This is where this is prominent. So we see these groups all breaking away, and eventually they start from where they were at and start pushing out to spread their influence across more regions. I actually don't think this is original Tibetan land, but they move up to meet up with all of their groups and are quickly able to separate a large portion of the RPGAU from itself. They split up, or they split the RPGAU into several small bits and pieces, as seen right here, right up here. But eventually, we see this start slowing down. Although there is still seeming to be aid coming from another country, that you guys can make guesses into what country is supporting these rebels. But the last part we see here is this group kind of expanding along the Bangladesh border, as it does start slowly seeping into Pakistan, and some groups are starting to pop up. Oh, however, there are extremely small groups that are kind of coming out here. If we look at the major cities, there is only one major city that joins this, and then there are some other small pockets around like larger villages that aren't quite major cities, but they are all more Tibetan leaning instead of just going for like getting Pakistan independent. They kind of want to go more with Tibet. Tibet's got good stability. Pakistan, even at its best stability, was only Lime. These guys are dark green and just much better off. But we're going to see this entire revelation evolve in the next episode as we see one event happen in the last bit of this episode. Alright, sorry I had cut the video. I had to do something quickly. But so you might notice a bit of change on this map. There seems to be some lines here that are being filled in with the same religion as the these guys, the South Chinese team. And well, that's because they do a little something called follow our religion or we send you to prison. Doesn't seem too inviting, right? Still, people will just follow their religion because they're one of the best countries to be in. So they strictly enforce this religion, if it's not clear already. Alright, but that will do it for today's episode of What If Civilization Started Over. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.